Hey y'all. As you know, I'm talking about my 25-year journey as an attorney, and this is part 8. So I am still a public defender at this point. And if I want to wrap up my time at the public defender's office, I would call it an absolutely thankless job. It was a thankless job. People call public defenders public pretenders, public offenders. They have all types of derogatory names for public defenders. But it was an absolutely thankless job, and I am grateful that my introduction into law and the foundation of my career as an attorney was having a thankless job. And I'll tell you why. Justice, strength, and peace of mind. This is my personal attorney diaries. Real life, real law, real story. The defender's office is pretty much like a residency. You know how in medical school, when people are going to become doctors, they do a residency where they're learning how to be doctors. They're working at a hospital or something like that and learning how to be doctors. The public defender's office and the state attorney's office to some extent is kind of like that for new lawyers. As soon as we graduate from law school, if we want a lot of trial experience very quickly, we go to the public defender's office or the state attorney's office. Because the public defender's office represents poor people, we are learning how to practice law at their expense. That's really the part of the residency that we're doing, is at the expense of poor people, but we have to jump up to the learning curve very quickly because we're dealing with people. And we begin to know their families and their lives and them, and we begin to care about what happens to them. So it makes us have to step up to the learning curve very quickly. So when I began to practice, I won some cases, I lost some cases, I won some cases that I should have lost. I lost some cases that I should have won. One example is I represented a woman in a case. We had a jury trial, and the trial was won. It was over. It was done. The state rested their case. That means they were done, and it was time for me to present my case. But based on the way that the testimony had gone up until that point, it was a clear win. There was no question about it. But I had a client, a female client, that was very talkative. She liked to talk, and she had a little bit of an attitude. There was no way that she was going to leave this trial without being heard. And as soon as she got on the stand, it was an absolute disaster. It was an absolute disaster. She came with the attitude. She came with all of that. And have you seen people where you hear them talk and you said whatever it is that they said you did, you did? Yeah, it was one of those situations. It was very clear. It didn't even come down to the cross-examination of the state attorney. She was canning herself just in her delivery and her presentation. And the case was lost. The jury came back and said guilty. And at the end of the case, once it was over, the judge just tapped her on the wrist. This is when I was in misdemeanor. She didn't get any time actually in jail. But when the case was over, the judge was like, Natasha, why did you let that lady testify? The case was won. Why'd you let her testify? And I'm just like, all I can do is throw up my hands. The bailiff chimed in and was like, Natasha, you know better. Why you put that lady on the stand? You know how she was going to act. All I could do, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes my sisters just got to be heard. But I can't tell them that I've had this conversation and I told her not to testify. She had a right to, and she was going to have the last, word, and what she had to say killed her. That's how it goes sometimes. But I've also gone in cases and trials where there's no way that I could win and come out with a victory. So we win some, we lose some. That's a part of the public defender's office because we're learning as we go. But it is a thankless job. There was a lot of recidivism. I would have cases and go to war in these courtrooms and win, right? The very next month, my client will be back in jail for the same crime. I've had a situation where a motion to suppress was granted, meaning the judge found that there was an illegal search and seizure, and the state dismissed the case. A few months later, my client was back in jail on a murder charge. So it's like a revolving system, and it feels like it's just a thankless job. My biggest victories have been silent victories. No one will ever know about them. It may have happened to a client that's a migrant farmer who speaks Spanish. So I guess they'll tell their community of people, but no one will ever know. It's really silent victories. I've had one such situation where they were trying to put the man in jail for 15 years and he walked away with a not guilty verdict. And as soon as I went back down to my office after a 2-day trial, when I answer the phone, I'm going to be hit with, I've been trying to contact you for 2 days. Where you been? My son needs to get out of jail. He has to go to work. And it's like, who is this? Who is your son? Who are you? I don't even know what you're talking about at this point. And I can't tell them, hey, we just had this major, well, they don't care. They care about what they care about. And so as soon as I finish one, I don't even have a chance to be happy about any victories because I'm running right back into another emergency. That was the life of a public defender. And also the bosses, they're not coming in saying congratulations. Superiors would check and see what we're doing. They would look at the court docket and see if we won the trial. At any given time, I had between 125 to 150 clients at all times. So the reward that I would get is I would come back to my office the day after the trial with 5 new cases, but they would be harder crime. And so that's the reward. It's no congratulations. It's none of that. But what happens is when you have a thankless job, it causes you to focus on the job. You're actually focusing on the work because you're not looking for applause from people. You're focused on the work because you care about the work. And it allows you to just focus on the work and grind and just continue to do it because you care about what's happening. I finally got my reward at the end when I was about to leave. So when I was about to leave, I got a new job. And I sent out letters to all of my clients telling them that I was leaving and that there was going to be a new attorney in the office representing them. And so it went out to all of my jail clients, all of my clients who were in the street, all of them. And when I would see my jail clients, they kind of got quiet. Oh, you leaving? And I'm like, yeah. And, they looked disappointed, but they didn't really say much, which was different because they're a rowdy bunch in the jails. Those guys they're rowdy. But they were just kind of quiet. But like a couple of days before I was leaving, I happened to be in the courtroom and it was an inmate in there. And I didn't know who he was. And he asked me, he said, is your name Natasha? And I said, yeah. And I didn't know how he knew my name. And then he said, you're about to leave, right? And I said, yes. And then he says, oh, those boys in there sick. I said, what? Those boys in there in jail, they're all sick because you're leaving. They said you were one of the ones who really cared. And I was like, oh, they got it. They got it. That is why I was doing the job, because I cared, which is why I appreciated my time at the public defender's office, because there was a character building that goes with that, because you learn how to do the job without the need for the applause. You learn there's some strength in it. It also makes you humble, right? Because no one is clapping for you, which is wonderful. It makes you humble. It makes you stronger. It develops your character. You're able to see who you are when no one is looking, because you're still grinding, because you're doing it for the purpose of the work, because you care about the work. And that is why I am grateful that my first job as an attorney and the foundation of my career as an attorney was working for the public defender's office. So now this is the purpose of this post. This is a shout out to all of you who have thankless jobs. Listen, continue to grind, continue to do the work. And there is a lot of thankless jobs. Teachers is what comes to mind first. Their parents have thankless jobs, but there are a lot of thankless jobs, and we all do it for the purposes of the work. I think there's a Bible verse that says something like, do it as unto the Lord and not for men. Do it because you care, and not because you're looking for applause from people. Continue to grind because you are making a difference in people's lives, whether you know it or not. I applaud you. Continue to do your good work. You will receive your recognition, but I just want to encourage you to keep going. I know my church is having a celebration for Volunteer Appreciation Day. Actually, it's tomorrow. So congratulations to all the volunteers in the church. A lot of those jobs are thankless jobs. Congratulations to any volunteer of any church. Oftentimes it goes without thanks, but more importantly, for the people who are working and grinding day to day, I want to shout you out and applaud you and tell you and encourage you to continue your good work. Continue to do it for the Lord and not for the applause of men. This has been my personal attorney diary, where law meets life and purpose meets passion. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to rise higher. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs a little encouragement.